Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And we are back looking to help you move your career along. And this guy, he's helped so many people. He's an author, a mentor, a life coach, business coach. He's also one of the most proficient guys I know anywhere, out of anybody on this planet when it comes to LinkedIn. Joe Frankie III is with us. Hi, Joe. How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great, Steve. And it's going to be a great day because I know sometime today you'll accept my LinkedIn invitation.
Right. All right. So here we go. You made a connection request on LinkedIn. I'm going to honestly tell you that I didn't see it, but it was a busy weekend because I was celebrating my sister's birthday. We're twins, so I'm giving you that excuse. However, I'm going to tell you this. At some point over the weekend, since we talked last, I started going over my LinkedIn profile, and I haven't been there in a long time. I want to admit it. I haven't posted any kind of content. LinkedIn, for me, I got busy and it kind of went to the side. And I know he probably went through it too. So, he's already formulated his opinion on me. I had some good stuff, I think, a year or so ago. Yeah, it was decent, but then I, lost track of time and got to get back on it because it's so valuable, right?
Yeah, I mean, we all do spring cleaning, so you need spring cleaning of your LinkedIn profile as well.
Well, I'd love to talk more about that. You can say anything you want. I think it's decent. However, it's lean on content. It doesn't have fresh content. That's the biggest challenge, I feel.
Yeah. So
you don't sound impressed. You don't sound impressed by my LinkedIn profile.
Hey, I am impressed. I mean, look at that.
Be honest. It's okay.
You're in the top 70 percentile. I mean, you at least got something there.
All right. Well, I did spend time on it, but I got to go back. It needs some TLC. Really does.
Yeah. So every once in a while, the things that you do, I tried to drill this into my sons as they went off. I said, hey, at the end of the week, you need a 3x5 card. What's
that?
A 3x5 card? Yeah. And I said, okay, let me rephrase that. On your notes on your phone, you need 3 things you learned this week, 3 things you want to learn, and 3 things you might want to do better. And then you keep that. And at the end of the month, you kind of make a 15-minute summary out of that. And then when you ever talk to management, you have a place to talk to, and if they ask you something, I mean, you've got the specifics, and that once my son saw that really work, where, one time the CEO of the construction company called him in and he just laid out everything he wanted to learn. And so what that guy did was write everything down. And the next thing you know, he had a different color helmet. And
wow.
And he was, they actually said, well, anybody's going to take this kind of attention to that. Well, why don't we pay the same attention back?
Interesting.
So it's,
you know what it sounds like? It's also as if it's making you be more mindful of your life and your situation, because it's staring you, whether it's on a 3x5 card, a Post-it note, or the notes on your phone. Now there's accountability. I love that. And 3 things I would like to accomplish or whatever is honestly go through my LinkedIn profile and update it. That'd be one of them that I would put down out of the top 3.
So, and with organizations I had, what that transpired into was significant activities report, so hey, what are the things that your organization did this week in support of our bigger organization? And then I would sum all of that stuff up for the entire organization and send that to our parent headquarters. And that was my way of marketing my subordinate leaders to the next higher level.
So they were more aware of what was going on just by presenting that to them.
Right. I mean, they didn't ask for it. It was presented to them, and I made sure it was short and, sweet. Anybody can always ask for additional information.
Right.
But, the art of anything is, hey, how do you communicate something that is really relevant to the point in a short short way. And that's an art as well as a skill.
That should be the first one you learn. I truly believe that. Get to the point, keep it short, reread that email before you press the send button. You can cut that down. I can almost guarantee it, right?
Yeah, I always tell these entrepreneurs, nobody's reading it if it's more than 6 sentences.
It's absolutely true. It's funny. I've worked in the radio world forever, and it forced me to do that when you talk over an intro that's 14 seconds long. So you got to deliver everything in 14 seconds. Done. Keep it short. Keep it simple and easy to understand. Yeah, absolutely. Even
And
texting.
You didn't get that. You didn't get to that on the first try.
I did not. No, it takes practice. Just like economizing all of your words and what you throw out there, it takes time, practice. Absolutely.
That's the same thing with a LinkedIn profile. You can pack a lot into it. I always say it's like a term paper. It's the third or fourth revision that really gets it tight,
What about on your profile using those standard words that a lot of us use, analytical, problem solver? Are those, should we start looking for new ones, or is that okay still to put up there?
I put on my website, I have a bookshelf, and one of them is LinkedIn. There's 3 books there. And one of the books I recommend to people, and it's very short, it's called Words That Sell. And that book is in its second revision. But what it is when
because they made it shorter. I'm only kidding.
So in a second revision, because what we do in our own style, if we write a lot, you kind of get to see the same style repeated, right? Which means they go into the same quiver of arrows, meaning words, right? Yep. So the words are starting to, okay. I mean, I saw that before. I saw that before. So rather than this be a thesaurus, it's really, hey, these are words that actually sell. So this is based on, data, right? And so how do I say analytical and problem solver? And how do you say that in different ways, in different formats? So there's a way to kind of spice it up. And those are already known words that sell. In other words, we're not trying to break new ground here.
Gotcha.
What we're trying to do is just sound different.
Or maybe fresher, right?
There you go. Fresher. Fresher is a better word.
Yeah. Because like you said, we're programmed to deliver what we deliver the same way all the time. So it's just a different view of it.
Yeah. So when you look at it and you say, well, gosh, this is kind of sounds like the same thing over here, then that's an excellent time to go in there and say, okay, let's see how I could reword this. And so it's kind of, okay, you've got one word at the top, and then based on how you're trying to use it, there might be 15 or 20 suggestions.
Interesting. So it's almost like a real world thesaurus.
It is. And, but I just say it's based on selling words as opposed to, hey, this is a word like that.
Interesting. Wow. You've got my interest on that. I love all of that. And NLP, are you familiar with that? Neuro linguistics programming? Yeah.
And so I think Richard Byan wrote that book, Bayan, Words That Sell.
Joe, if you were to look back, and everything's a learning process, we shouldn't have regrets, but if you were to look back, let's say even 5, 6, 7 years ago, and could have done something different, what would it be in terms of your business, in terms of even LinkedIn? What would it be?
Well, I think I should have gotten here faster.
Okay.
So what happens and my wife helped me with this because, I was working executive search, and I think we might've told that story before. And I was helping these people with LinkedIn profiles and their resumes. And so everybody I seemed to getting interviews, or they were progressing. So then the word got out. So I was getting calls at 6 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night, saying, hey, can you help me? And then the problem you have when you work for, a big search firm, they don't want you talking to job seekers because you need to go find clients. And, hey, time is money, and, it's our money and our time. So, but I always looked at it, if you help somebody, got them into an executive position, then they'll call you up and use you too, so that brush, swipes both ways
Sure.
on that. And I said, she said, either go back to your day job, which means just go back to executive recruiting, or make a business out of this. And I said, well, why do you think this would be a good business? She said, I'm listening to you talk to these people, and you sound like you're developing officers in the Army. And I said, why do you think that? Because I hear you're telling them, hey, this is how you get promoted. Hey, this is how you get your next job. This is how you get the right level of experience so you can qualify for this. And then it was just a blinding flash of the obvious that I'd spent my entire life career developing people, really leaders, but that it, it was a gift, and it comes natural, and I do it well, I think, at least the last 689 people, the last six years.
Wow. That's incredible. That's it. And we talked about last time how people have found you, if not everybody in recent years, through LinkedIn.
Yeah. And word of mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah. So word of mouth brings them to your LinkedIn profile, right? Because now they're going to check you out.
Like you did for me.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Well, I thought, hey, Steve Harper, man, he'd be a great connection,
Working on it. What do you find when you talk to people that, let's say, they could be good for an executive position, but they've never fulfilled that role before? Are they apprehensive? Are they nervous about it? Or are they ready to go? What do you find? What do you hear?
It is different with all kinds of people that have, a lot of them have done the job from the standpoint, they weren't an executive, but they were doing all the executive work. In other words, they'd kind of taken over the executive's job in a lot of cases, so that executive could take over his boss's job. So a lot of them are, pretty much ready and comfortable, because they've actually been there. The challenges I've had with certain people is that, they believe, a certain thing, even though it's not true. In other words, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
So I had a gentleman that I worked with, and he worked with a company, and this company had several other small companies. So it was a big company with several other divisions, but they were companies. And so what this guy was really great at is going into one of these subordinate companies and, fixing the problems, turning it around, and what have you. But on that person's resume, it looked like, he couldn't keep a job. Okay, because he's going down into XYZ company, and he's only there about 7 months. And, this was a big family oriented company, so they don't really let people go, but they need stuff fixed.
But it was all connected to the same company, but on paper or on screen, it looks like he's bouncing all over the place. Wow.
Yeah. And so what happened was, as I was saying, what was happening with him is he'd get called in, and everybody'd want to ask about that question, about, hey, I mean, what is it? You can't hold a job. So there's the rest of the story, right? But so when you asked about that, what happened is there was a facial change, and then he would look off to the right or left, and, he was uncomfortable with the answer. And so we had to work days on that. Really, his wife did that, to where he had a short, succinct story that was just boom. Okay, this is what it was, boom. And there was like no break in eye contact, because the message he was sending is he didn't believe what he was saying.
And he was being truthful. There was nothing wrong with what he was doing and how his career
Yeah,
path
so
went.
but he emotionally, he felt that he was disadvantaged. So we had to get through the emotion of him not being disadvantaged and be able to consummate the one-on-one, face-to-face sale. You know, hey, I'm good. I did this. And yeah, I was their hitman. I turned things around. Every time they had a problem, boom. You know, I was sent in and I said, so what happens is you've got in 4 years of experience, you've got what would take 12 to get. In another way,
Wow.
because you were put in, fix it. So, I mean, you know, and those are stressful situations because they want results.
But they put him there for a reason, because he's good.
They put him
Wow.
there for a reason.
Interesting. Yeah, psychologically, he's thinking what they're thinking because they
Right.
don't understand the full situation.
Right. So you've got to get it to where you're comfortable. And so the recruiter sees that, and he knows that when he sends them to an interview that he's not going to make the sale. So his value is reduced.
Hmm.
But once you get to the point where you can make the sale, you know, in other words, you're confident in what you're doing. And so once we did that, yeah, no problem. You got picked up quick.
Wow. You had mentioned before we went on, real briefly, about a potential burning of the bridge situation and it was connected to LinkedIn, I believe.
Well, this is a good rationale. So, I mean, we've talked in previous shows. I mean, today, whether you like it or not, you know, even if Steve Harper, you know, feels like he's got everything forever, your LinkedIn profile has to be show ready 24/7, 365.4, because we're going to count for leap year on that 4th year. Okay. So
No, doesn't mess around.
So anyway, the reason is I'd been working with this gentleman. So he's up in his 50s and just a world-class engineer, you know, and got a great track record, everything like that. But, you know, once you get up there, it's really hard to, you know, find. So what he wanted to do was get his master's in engineering management. And so we looked at various schools in the US, world-class schools, and applied to 3 and, you know, got the one he wanted. And it was a great program. And from that, and a lot of the contacts, you know, stuff, actually doing radio shows and everything else, you know, as a student and progressing through there, he got picked up by a good world-class company. And he was also notified by another world-class company that, you know, the kinds of companies that you and I would recognize by their name. And so one was kind of ahead of the other, you know, and one was kind of a nicer deal. It was really what he wanted and all that other kind of stuff. So it was going a little bit slow on the other one. So anyway, accepted an offer for, you know, kind of a dream job. And lo and behold, I said, hey, you know, you're not there yet. You need to continue the interview process, you know, with the other one. He said, but Joe, but I know where I want to go. And I said, well, hey, you're just going to sharpen the blade. I mean, they're willing to spend the time, and you don't know what might come out of that, and you'll be better for it. So anyway, he said, okay, but, you know, he accepted the offer, and away he was going with the thing. And then today, this is pretty fresh, we got notified that they had a restructuring of the company, and the position that they hired him for is gone.
Wow.
So you haven't even been there 2 weeks, and you're getting your 2-week notice.
My gosh. You go from here down to here.
So I said, okay. And I said, well, where were we at on the other interview? And he said, well, Joe, you know, I did, like you said, I'm scheduled to do that. And I said, well, you know, switch gears and away you go. But I said, aren't we glad that we didn't turn that, you know, whole process off, you know? And it's one thing to be doing this at 40. It's another thing to be doing it at 50.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, Anyway, and so
You
he
know, you
said,
look at it that way, the 40 and the 50, you know, one side, 50 or 50s, you've got experience and you bring a lot to the table. But on this side over here, somebody may work for less in their 40s or 40, maybe more tech savvy potentially, depending on who you are over here. So yeah, never burn a bridge. Like, and they were interested to talk with them. Why wouldn't you?
it, I think that is going to eventually, really work out
Mm.
for him. But he just told me, he says, you gave me some world-class advice. And I said, hey, pat yourself on the back because you actually followed it.
Did you imagine that he didn't have a backup plan, a follow-up? How deflating that might be, knowing that you didn't get the job that you really wanted. Maybe this, I believe things happen for a reason, whatever the reason may be. Whatever, maybe this job is going to be better than the first one.
I think so. I mean, both of them are world-class companies, but the important thing to learn from that is, hey, we're in this post-pandemic thing, and there's one thing that abounds is change.
Yeah.
And so, that I tell everybody, I said, look, you owe it to yourself almost on a monthly basis to make sure your LinkedIn profile is sharp, because it's just like it's sitting out in the weather without you looking at it, oiling it, wiping it down a little bit, that kind of stuff.
Joe's talking directly to me and all of us. I can feel it. I can feel it. And it's, I'm embarrassed because you do what you do.
Oh,
and
I
it's,
I force myself on my own LinkedIn profile. I use numbers. Like, I said, hey, I've coached 689 people.
okay.
So I say I coached 689 people as of such date.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that forces me when I've coached another person, I have to go 3 different places in my complete system in and out of LinkedIn and update those dates and the numbers. And people always say, well, Joe, what's 689 have to do with it? I said, well, if you're going to work with me and you can't measure your production, I cannot help you.
Yeah. Yep. And by putting the date on there, full transparency.
Full transparency.
Yeah. It's got to be open, got to be honest. I view my LinkedIn profile, Joe, as a decent car that hasn't been washed in a long time. That's next. Got to clean it up. Got to clean it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like getting the youngsters into I call it the 3x5 habit. Once they kind of did that, and then it's like you do it so many times, then you just kind of a habit, and you can do it pretty quick.
Yeah. Once you get in, you know what it is? Once you have the confidence and you're used to doing it, yeah, 100% right. But you got to get to that point. The book that you published along with somebody else, what's the name of that book?
Lori Ruff is my co-author, and she's another thought leader on LinkedIn. But the book is called LinkedIn, the 5-minute drill for executive networking success. And it's a 1-hour read. It's 4.9 out of 5.0 on Amazon. It's doing well. It's being used in high school business classes. So,
Wow.
You make the cut to get into a high school.
We have a winner.
No dilly dally.
We have a winner.
The words got to be good too,
Yeah, and relevant. Wow, congratulations on that. That speaks, no pun intended, volumes in terms of the quality of the book. And if somebody wants to connect with you, even on a coaching level, a mentoring level, maybe somebody's searching for somebody else in the business world, what's the best way to reach you?
Joseph.frankie@gmail.com. Frankie with an IE. Yeah.
And the 3 characters and 3 I's?
Not on the Gmail account, just Joseph Frankie, FRANKIE @gmail.com. And then I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook and Twitter.
Yep.
And those are at Joe Frankie III.
I say this quite often, and it's a testament to the power of LinkedIn, but your website, you just put it up, a basic website, because the publisher of your book said you need some, You need some, they force you to put a website up. And you know, the rest of us are all about, hey, I got to make sure my website looks great. Well, yeah, okay. If you have one, you should. But at the same time, look how the power of LinkedIn and all the business and all the people you've helped just from your profile done right up there. Says a lot.
I mean, I'm a big believer in content. You've got content all throughout your life,
Sure.
LinkedIn is just a place to tell story after story after story. And what we are all looking for in the business world we are looking for problem solvers. And the way that I find problem solvers is the storytelling on LinkedIn. Hey, they asked me to do this, I had a project manager come to me and he says, Joe, I'm not getting anywhere on LinkedIn. I said, well, you haven't done any projects. Nobody's going to find you. And I said, your first 3 sentences in the summary says, hey, in the last 7 years, I've done, 17 projects, from 1.3 million to, 186 million with project teams of 4 to 17 people. All of them were done on time, under budget, So now, you're sticking it out there and, hey, now I'm at least going to read the rest of your profile.
Sure. Because it sounds exciting. You hooked
You just
somebody.
say I'm a great guy and I do great things or great gal and all that. Okay.
Prove it.
Well, it's just that I'm going to go to somebody that's show ready. I'm going to find them and that's who I'm taking to the client.
Yep. Well, it's almost like a quarterback. And you see, somebody could say, he's a great quarterback. He's fantastic. He's fantastic. But without the stats, what does that mean? It's a popularity contest there. I don't mean to cut you off, but I got stuff to do. I gotta accept a LinkedIn connection request from somebody named Joe Frankie very fast.
Oh man, you're gonna beat me up on that forever.
Yeah. I'm glad you're beating me up. You're motivating me to move forward with it. Joe, always great talking with you and love the information and the stories and the motivation for all of us to move it forward. Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.